Joining me today, we have Richard Vass, Vice President of Learning Solutions here at ELB Learning. So without further ado, Rich, I will let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. And welcome all. Great to have you with us today. Some of you may have seen me before doing similar webinars like this over the years. If so, then thanks for coming back. If it's your first time joining for this kind of an event, then I'm glad to have you here. It's always interesting when we're asked to do something like this. We've done several, looking at work we've done and sharing with you some best practices for levels of interactivity. And we've touched on Bloom's taxonomy, and I've got some of that in here today. What level is best for your learning objectives, based on what you're trying to get learners to do. So we'll talk about some of that today as we step through. And we do have 5 courses that we're going to share with you, each at different levels of interactivity. We're going to escalate up. So we're going to start with what we call our foundational courses and work all the way up to level 4. So I'll kind of share that with you as we're moving along today. And as Stephanie said, feel free to ask questions, and we do have some helpers along the way. Many of you have been following eLearning Brothers for a while. I think we have lots of subscribers on the line today, and I recognize some folks who have engaged our custom learning team before. We have a services division, as you can see at the bottom of this wheel. And then we're actually going to be talking mostly about the solutions that our custom learning team. We have several teams now that are engaged in providing custom services. One is the game agency. They're a division of ELB Learning. We have Jen on today. She's our director of marketing at the game agency. We may have her jump in later today to talk about one of the solutions. And then we have our core group at the Utah office. That's where I live, in Utah. And the ELB custom services team has been working in the space for about 10 years. But in addition to that, we have all the products that you see here. So today we're focusing on custom learning. Some of you I know are subscribers to our authoring tools, and some here today may be subscribers to the Training Arcade or the Arcade's platform. And others may be using our virtual reality or our video practice tools and our learning platforms. And if you're not aware of those, definitely let us know, because or in the follow-up, you'll get a follow-up to this. Let us know if you'd like to learn more about any of these. Some of this we'll showcase today, some virtual reality, some gaming. So you'll get to see some of the stuff that comes out of the box, but for the most part, it's all about custom learning today. So I'll try to share with you what tools were used as these things were built. And that hopefully will help you with a little bit, of your world. Many of you know that eLearning Brothers, or ELB Learning, I'm still getting used to that. ELB Learning acquired the Trivanis company a couple of years ago, and that included the Lectora authoring tool. So we'll talk a little bit about the capabilities of Lectora. We're going to show you a lot of Storyline today. We do a lot of our clients, when they come to our custom services division, they ask us to build in Storyline. So in that case, we do. Some of the builds you'll see today are HTML5 native builds. So if you've got programmers that can build an HTML and build a nice little engine, then that works well too. So we'll talk about all of that. So let's talk about the levels of interactivity. We have 5. And the industry, I think, has about the same. We've added foundational recently because we've found that there's a difference between foundational and level 1. And I'm going to show you examples of all these, as we mentioned, but you can see here that in a foundational course, we're talking about simple presentational interactions. Conveys information. There's occasional knowledge checks and maybe some very simple activities for reinforcement. And we always try to make sure those are visually polished. We're using graphics to help there. Notice the difference between a foundational and a level 1. Again, this is our vernacular. By the way, you are getting a little peek under the hood here today, because if you go on our website, you only see 3 levels of interaction. But since we've been acquiring new businesses and expanding our reach, we are maybe setting a new standard in the industry, or I'll say a different standard that's sort of the same. I mean, you can probably find lots of very similar descriptions for levels of interactivity. But the difference that we have now engaged with is subtle, but can be significant, because in a level 1 course, now we're getting into exploratory interactions. It's not just presentational. We're using basic scenarios, encouraging learners to demonstrate understanding. Some animated screens. We're elevating the graphics a little bit. Then we get to level 2. Most of our work is at level 2. I'll say that for the ELB studio here based in Utah, but our India studio, many of you may not know, we acquired the Origin Learning team a little bit ago. They're based in India, and they do a lot in this level as well, level 2. So this is pretty much sort of the point where we enter with clients a lot of times. And at the level 2 interactivity, we're creating lots of activities and interactive scenarios. We're starting to introduce games, gamified interactions, so learners can engage with practical application. They're going to learn something, now they're going to apply it through a game. We're doing a mix of custom and stock imagery. So in the first couple, we're pretty much stock imagery. But as you all know, many of you know, you can take stock images and edit them and update them. A lot of you are subscribers to our asset libraries, where we have over 120 million images and audio and video files that you can tinker with. So starting with a stock image and then crafting it or changing it a little bit can help to add some sizzle to your course. But when we're at level 2, now we're engaging our illustrators and our graphic artists. So you're getting a little more pop there. Level 3, we'll show you an example of this one too. It's a deeper dive. Learners are exploring themes. They're playing a central part to the story. The whole experience is wrapped around a mission to Mars or a detective theme where it's going to be gamified throughout. Lots of visual engineering. So now we're getting into almost entirely illustrated courses when we talk about themes and styles. But we love those kinds of courses. Level 3 and level 4 is where our creative teams really get, as we all do, when you get to work on fun projects like that, it can really become engaging. And then level 4, fully immersive 3D learning simulations. So now we're talking about using the Unity engine. You might have heard of Unity 3D. If you're playing Xbox or console games, a lot of those are built in Unity. The Unreal Engine, our friends at the game agency are experts on these tools, and we'll show you. It was hard for me. I had to pick one to show you today because we just don't have time to show you everything. Happy to show you more if you'd like to engage after this meeting. But we're really coming alive in an augmented or VR experience. All the activities are designed to capture the imagination and engage the senses. And VR doesn't have to be in a headset. It can. I'm going to show you a solution today in level 4 that's not in a headset, but it could be. But it's a sort of a virtual reality experience that you can experience on your phone, on your tablet, on your laptop. And actually the one I picked was for kids. So that should be fun. All right. Got my arrows here. So we're just going to jump in. And then Steph, I do see some chatter happening in the chat. Let me know if anything needs to be answered as we move along here. Stephanie has no problem interrupting me. So let's jump here to this first experience. I picked a solution from our India team that was done for the United Nations. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click and just open the link in a new window. And I'm going to let it play a little bit here as I talk.
Screen 1.
I am going to kill the audio. This was built with a native HTML engine. So you'll notice you're not seeing some of the storyline things you expect to see. I have said for years, excuse me, I've been in the industry for 30 years, as some of you know. So I've been, an old guy. My hair's all gray now. But back in the early 90s, I was working for a financial company. I got into the training and development space. Gee whiz, that was in 93. In 95, 96, Macromedia came along with authorware. Pretty tough price point to get into it. Then Lectora came around in 99. And I remember trying to get budget for Lectora from my boss, and I couldn't get it. Then, of course, we saw Captivate come along when they acquired RoboDemo, and that's an Adobe product now. Then we saw Articulate enter with their 09 studio. And so anyway, it's been fascinating to follow all of this. But I have said for years, it's hard not to look at India when it comes to just talent there. And so the Origin team, which recently was acquired by ELB and joined our forces, 300 people, by the way, a little over 300 folks at that office, they have really expertly crafted an HTML engine like what you're seeing here. So if I could just click next here, they've done several courses for the United Nations. This is one that just talks about challenging conversations at work. So helping, I believe, internal folks at the UN and others. I'm not sure what the Office of the Ombudsman means. Probably a lot of you do, but you can see there's a lot of just presentational. The audio, I think it's automated voice, but it's sort of speaking through, what's happening. You can see I got X number of screens here. There's some options at the top for a menu. I can pop through if I need to. I'm not sure if this one's locked or not. Oh, it looks like it's not. I can jump around. I can pull up the transcript if I want. But this engine that's built is really nice for doing exactly what you're seeing here. It's just presenting graphics and text. And the audio is sort of walking you through the whole experience. We've all seen a lot of these types of interactions, but they look nice. You can see there's a watermarked image there. The images that are popping up are, they're all on theme, and they look really nice. So this type of an experience, I'm gonna go ahead and close this because it's just, all of it's just this. We do get some knowledge checks throughout. So if I pop up here, we'll come up here to a pop-up quiz. And this again is part of that engine. Here's a quick question based on everything you just learned, which would be the correct answer. So we are engaging learners a little bit as we're moving along. I'm going to close that one and then give you a little click here to say stuff like this. We're talking about a foundational course. These are very effective for recall, understanding, a review, you might think of maybe just compliance training. Now, we've done a lot of high-end compliance training over the years because many of our clients have come to us to say, how can we make this better? And that's our tagline these days. We create better learning experiences. So, when you have to knowledge dump information, like you see in what we just saw there, you're just trying to get information into the heads of people so that they can pass a test. They can recall the information. They can demonstrate their understanding in some score-based analysis. Those foundational courses are great for exactly that. And we do a lot of that type of work for our clients. It's a step up from, I think, a PowerPoint presentation. We've all heard of death by PowerPoint. But if I have to get through it, and I have some media and some audio, maybe some music and some clicks where I'm answering questions along the way, it's still very much happening out there in the wild. So we're doing a lot of those foundational types of learning courses. Many of you who are on the call today have likely done similar type of work with authoring tools. The big three are certainly Articulate, Captivate, Lectora. But there's lots of others out there that many of you are using: Domino Flow, Elucidate, Adapt. There's lots of tools that are in the market today, as you know, and they're all designed to do exactly that. And there's a big need for that. It's cheap, it's fast. It may not be awesome, like you really are going to capture, everybody's going to talk about it, think it's really cool and engage with it, but it's something that certainly is not without its benefits. Okay, now I'm going to jump into level one. So you'll see the difference here. So we just saw basic screens, transitioning. We do a lot of that type of work, as I mentioned, audio, and then knowledge checks throughout. I guess I'll say one thing about that. In my experience, so my background is delivery and design. So I got into the field in '93. I remember being hired on as just a phone rep. So I'm an accidental ID, and I've achieved certifications along the way, but I love my new hire trainer. It was a 6-week training program, 4 weeks in a classroom learning about how to talk to customers on the phone and all this. And then I got on the phones and I was in that world for a couple of years, just doing my thing. And then when a training position opened up, I posted for it. And then so from '93 to today, almost 30 years, I've been in this field, workplace learning and performance, designing and delivering. I learned as I got into design that I enjoyed it. I learned how to do it effectively. I've tried to keep up with the trends as we've moved along into self-paced and asynchronous learning and all the different modalities that are out there now. But I learned something about myself. I'm not a graphic designer. I like to instructionally design and architect the solution and think creatively with the client about, okay, what's the need? Tell me about the learning audience. What is their demographic? What are they accustomed to? How can we elevate the experience? And then we use all the tools that we have available to us now. But I've learned I'm just not a graphic artist. Matter of fact, I'll never forget the first time I created something I was really proud of. It was using Captivate 3, I think, back in the maybe early 2000s, 20 years ago. And a friend of mine who's a graphic artist looked at it and said, well, this looks like you created this with clip art from PowerPoint. And I remember being hurt, but I got to have a thick skin. And I just went, okay. So now I leave it to the designers. So even in that foundational course, I would recommend, there's so many great graphics out there, which is awesome, but there's things that a graphic artist will see that you won't, maybe. So if you can, use a graphic artist, even if it's your marketing team, maybe somebody in the marketing team may be willing to look at something if you don't have internal graphic artists. So I'm just saying. Okay, let's jump to level 1. So here's a course that was built for Sigma Chi. They're based out of Illinois, and some of you may be familiar with them. They are a fraternity organization and one of the top in the country, North America, where they're very keen about their message and very serious about their message, which is enabling the leaders of tomorrow, helping young men become principled men of integrity. And this whole program, they spend a lot of money on training for their internal people. I've been very impressed with this organization. So this one's called Strong Arms. This particular course was created because there was some funding received regarding suicide awareness after one of their members had taken his life. And so they came to us to help craft this course. So one of the things I love about my job is there's so many amazing things that are out there that you can learn about and be a part of. So this one is going to launch from our LMS. So take a second to load here. Here we go. All right, let me kill the audio here on this one. There we go. This was built in Storyline, as many of you will be able to see here. This was the young man that introduced the course and made it popular, and they tell his story a little bit as we're talking about this concept of strong arms and mental health. So this is just a demo video. I'm just going to let it run. But what you'll notice here is there are some interactivities. So you're seeing things now where the learner is now, they're going to move a slider to learn about, okay, some specific things regarding college life or fraternity life, helping to understand these concepts around, what's healthy and what's unhealthy. And here's a little activity, right, where we're going to learn about some things. And then we're going to say, well, let's see, I'm going to drag the ones I feel are helpful for this young man to improve his wellness score. So I'll click, learn, and drag over. And then you'll notice here in this question, well, how many undergraduates do you think feel sleepy during the day? It's a percentage scale, and you get to grab the needle and move it. Then we get into this, information about, self-care. We're going to click on each one and learn about what that means. And in this case, it's talking about sleep. So that's important, especially in college life, if you remember those days. Another scale or slider activity here where we're able to, make our best guess and then click submit. In some cases, we actually grab that data and we share that across universities. So if somebody in Illinois is taking the test, somebody in California or Florida or Toronto, wherever the organization exists, I'm able to see how my fellow brothers are responding on other campuses. So lots of engagement throughout. And they can do this, on their own time, obviously. We built a lot of courses like this. This is a great example of, how we're using interactivity, where folks are able to actually engage with the material. So there's a lot more exploratory interactivity happening here. That's our old logo. So we're still in the process of building out our new ELB Learning logos on all of our legacy material. But here we've got, effective, and again, you'll recognize some of these Bloom's taxonomy. We're rising up the levels here. If we're looking at level 1, when our design teams are thinking about a level 1 interactivity, they're thinking about identification, recognition, classifying, organizing data, which is why you see a lot of that. But what do you think is the right fit here? What's the correct, what are the correct choices for personal health and mental well-being? So they're identifying, they're classifying, they're organizing, So that's kind of what we're after here. We don't see a lot of direct application. So we're saying, all right, you just learned something, now apply it to this specific scenario. There's some light pieces like that. Let me jump back over to the main slide here. You can see that there's some light pieces, basic scenarios. They're demonstrating understanding as we're doing some exploratory interactions. So we try to keep that very basic. They're exploring as they're moving along. Okay, now I'm going to jump to level 2. Now we're getting to the even more fun stuff. And I know that many of us here today, and because I've seen this over my 10 years at eLearning Brothers and then my 20 years prior in this field, sometimes it's just a matter of what you have time for and what you have budget for. You may only ever have time for foundational and level 1, and that's fine. I'm telling you right here today, we are seeing a lot of need for that. And so clients will come to us and they'll say, hey, I need this converted. I got all these PowerPoints and I just need them online. I need them to look nice and I don't want to spend a lot of money. Okay, well, foundational and level 1 options are certainly available for that. But what we are finding as well, that many of our clients are very interested in increasing the cognition of these learning experiences. When we say cognition, I think many of you know what I mean. It is the application and the mental churning that's much more active than passive. Those are probably the best words I could use. Foundational is very passive. It's mostly I'm watching. Level 1 is more engaging. I'm starting to do more with what's going on the screen. And then now in level 2, now we're getting into interactive scenarios, gamified interactions. So let me show you an example here. Let me jump over here. Here we go. So Ally Financial has been a long-term client of ours. And gee whiz, we were just doing a business review with them a couple of days ago. We've been working with these guys since I think 2009. So about 13 years. We've been doing a lot of great work together with, and Ally Financial is such an amazing team. By the way, they are hiring. So they're building their team. So if you're looking for work, ping me and I will introduce you to the hiring managers over there. So let me go to restart here. Again,
Welcome to our training.
Let me kill
acting like
audio.
An ally.
Okay, I'm going to bring that down. So custom imagery here. So we're doing some stuff here that actually we're using some things from their, just from existing stock imagery. But in some cases, we're using some of their own imagery. And we help them get those shoots, or we use some of the stuff that they already had existing there. This particular course is about DEI. It's diversity and inclusion, and they're introducing some key concepts as they move along. I'm going to jump around a little bit here because I don't want to go through all of it. And as you imagine, some of these slides are presentational. What do we mean by core values? Okay, well, now when we come to this knowledge check and we say, all right, let's take a look at how this builds. I'm just going to let this slide run. This is different than what we were seeing in level 1. In level 1, it was just sort of generic. What's healthy? What's the right choice? How many people do you think? Blah, blah, blah. In this case, we're looking at a specific scenario that happened at Ally that could happen in any given day. Our instructional designers found this out by interviewing the SMEs, subject matter experts. They have a peer coach program internally. And so the peer coach, in this case, Alice, hey, Don, I'm excited to be your peer coach. Thanks, Alice. How could you believe my story at lunch? Oh, man, that was the worst date ever. Well, it turns out Don, in this case, isn't really excited about engaging on a personal level. He'd rather just stick to work-based topics because, he just comes to work to do his thing. So it's an actual scenario that's personal to the learner. And if I'm working at Ally and I get this experience, I might think, oh yeah, well, that could happen to me. Or I have a peer coach and I know, it's much less generic and much more specific. Again, passive versus active. Even though like in the level 1 example with Sigma Chi, well, I'm doing a lot, I'm moving things around a lot. The cognitive level of applying, well, what would be the right solution here? So based on what you just saw, what would be the correct response? Well, I guess Alice could say, hey, I do like to connect to my coworkers, or this one. I think I'm gonna get somebody else to be your coach. Or just, hey, right away, Don has expressed his feelings. The right thing for her to do is go, hey, I respect that. Let's keep it professional. We'll focus on just work. Even though she may not enjoy this peer coaching relationship as much, that is the right one to choose, as we could probably all imagine. So click that, drag it over, we click respond, then we get some feedback. So these take a little more time, as you know. Probably don't have to tell you guys this, but you're going to have to take some time with your SMEs to say, help me understand within this context, in this case, diversity, inclusion, equity, DEI type stuff, what are some scenarios that happen in the workplace? And you've worked there. Many of you are designers working with organizations. Some of you are consultants, but we all work with, folks who are asking us to help build training. So taking the time to actually find a real scenario, it just makes such a huge difference. I think it moves us from instructional designers to learning experience designers. That's definitely something that's happening. We're seeing now here in the 2020s and beyond is we're not just instructional designers, like you saw in foundational and level 1. Well, that's a good ID. A good ID needs to take the content. They need to chunk it in such a way that it can slowly be shared over several slides. It's building, I'm engaging, I'm learning. But as we get into learning experience design, well, now I want to know what's going on in the minds of these learners. What is their experience? So I'll show you another one here without jumping around a lot. But we get into adopting a growth mindset, which I think is an interesting concept as well that they wanted to provide. So we'll come over here to Matteo's mindset. So we're going to meet Matteo and we're going to drag some statements to say, well, what are some things here that would indicate that Matteo has a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? Well, I just learned about the growth mindset. So a growth mindset might be something like this. I'm not afraid to challenge myself. A fixed mindset, I can't really compete with other people. I thought I could succeed at sales. I don't think I have what it takes. I'm just not good with change. Maybe that's right there too. Oh, I did it. I got it all right. Again, you can see the cognition that's happening here, right? It's more than just, hey, click these things and drop them over here and learn as we pop up information for you. But now I got to think about it and really kind of think about, well, what's happening here? What am I doing here? Now, I want to make a shout out for XAPI. I will tell you this, even though Tin Can and XAPI have been around for a long time now, I'll say 10 years, maybe. I started noticing around 2010 and learning about it and getting some understanding around it and thinking, wow, that's really cool. This is a good example of using XAPI. We didn't in this case. This was just a SCORM publish from Articulate Storyline using its basic publishing features. But if you wanted to do an XAPI experience where you're saying, well, listen, I want to know, what did they do wrong first? I want to know, did they drag these down here and get these wrong? And then it snaps back, try again. I got to get it right before I can move on. Well, I really feel like there's still a case for that. And a lot of organizations are moving that direction. We're not getting a lot of requests for that still, even now in 2022. We learn a lot. Some of you may know Megan Torrens. Megan's a good friend of ELB for many years, and she's an expert in that space. And I remember one of the conferences I attended, we came to a screen where I had to use my phone to take a QR code. Oh, no, wait a minute. No, I remember now. I took a piece of paper and I drew on it my 5-year career plan. And it was at the time I wanted to be doing this or more VR. I wanted to get into virtual reality. And then I got an Oculus for Christmas. So I'm doing that. And then at the bottom, she said, okay, now log in here on my phone. So I logged into her little LMS thing. Then I scanned a QR code at the bottom of my of the little page. And it came right into my course where I was. And now it was part of my learning record. And so I thought, well, okay, that's cool. That's a good example of XAPI at work. We can do more than just the SCORM stuff, which is click, read, listen, interact, answer questions. And then, we put that on the LMS. So stuff like this we can do. We have not been doing a ton of it still yet. So I just want to put that shout out there to say sometimes we can. We do have an LRS. So we have a learning record store. To do XAPI, you need a learning record store, which is, it's like a database, right? You're going to make choices. That's going to drive to the LRS, which then provides the reporting to the LMS. So we could have an entire, hour on just that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close this one.
Hey, Rich, before we move on to the next example, there was a question specifically about that interaction you just showed. So that was a drag and drop interaction. Now, in terms of accessibility, drag and drops are not. What would you recommend as an alternative to get kind of the same feel
Yep.
but be accessible if your client required accessibility?
Yep. That's a great question. This course was not built for 508 accessibility. And we do ask that question right up front to all of our clients is, do we need to be concerned about that? Typically, if you're receiving state or federal funds, then we need to make sure we're doing that. And really, let's be honest, we should always be thinking about that. And we always say, you're exactly right. We don't recommend drag and drop for 508 or accessibility. Oftentimes what we'll do is we'll provide alt tags. So you might come to something like that just says, here's 4 scenarios. You can tab to each scenario, boom, 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 boom. Which do you think is most correct? Enter it here, 1, 2, 3, or 4. I think number 3 was most correct. Or which of these 4 do you think are most correct? So then it's a text field, or we're requiring them to enter something as opposed to a drag and drop. We actually have a little template for how to do that. So tell me if you'd like to have that. We have it built in Storyline and Lectora. I can show you what that code looks like. Lectora has it built natively. By the way, Lectora is king when it comes to accessibility. So some of these, what we're talking about here, like rather than a drag and drop, I just want them to say, hey, tab through these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All 4 are active tabs. And my alt text and everything is set just like it needs to be. And now, which do you think is correct? Well, it's the same thing as a drag and drop. It's just that it's accessible. So in this case, we didn't think about that. But when we do require it, we use that kind of an approach. Great question. Thank you, Steph.
Great, thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to click here to say, all right, let's look at level 2. When we're talking about level 2, we're talking about decision-making, solving, interpreting, and applying. So the next 3 slides, level 2, 3, and 4. I showed you level 2, and now I'm going to show you level 3 and level 4. In all cases, we're applying now. So we get to level 2, we're in application mode. Level 1 and level 2, foundational and level 1, passive. Is there a case to be made for passive learning? Yes. I just became a SCORE mentor, by the way, in my personal life. I'm a 53-year-old guy. And, like I said, I'm trying to determine how can I give back now and to do more for others. So I joined the Small Business Administration SCORE organization that some of you may have heard of. They're awesome. They provide coaching for folks who are starting businesses and whatnot. So in my spare time, I'm a SCORE mentor, but I had to go through all this training. Their training is awesome. It's all built in Storyline. And I had to log into their LMS, as a volunteer and experience all that training. And it was all passive. It was all foundational, but it was great. I learned what I needed to learn. I kind of was taking it while I was working on stuff, but I would pause, go back, and I had to pass some tests, but it was great. So, that's a good example of, here's me as a learning professional for decades, and I don't turn my nose up at stuff like that. It works fine. There's a place for it. However, when it comes to applying, if I need to apply what I'm learning so that I can be successful as a SCORE coach, then we got to step it up, right? We got to get to level 2 and level 3. And if you really want to make a difference and watch that needle move, you go to level 4. More expensive, obviously, but who was it that said, if you think training is expensive, try not training effectively. Or if you think effective training is expensive, try not training effectively and see how expensive that is. And we can go on and on about that. Anyway, so let me jump back here. So, okay, we've been through now foundational, level 1, level 2. Now we're going to get to the really fun stuff. So level 3 is a deeper dive. Learners are actually exploring themes, as I mentioned earlier. They're playing a central role in the story. You have to, as a designer, you have to know that right up front, right? You got to know right up front, what is the expectation here? Maybe your stakeholder, the requester has a real, sort of an idea about something really, really cool. And I want to make this whole thing like a desert survival simulation experience. Okay, well, if we get to level 4, now we can do that with a headset. And now you're in the desert and I got to move over there and whatever. Or I could build it on a VR experience on my laptop. Or even my phone or my tablet using AR and stuff. Well, that's level 4, but you can do similar types of stuff in level 3. So let's look at the one I picked here. I'm going to click over here. So some of you may know that Twitch was acquired by Amazon a couple of years ago. And I think it was $1 billion transaction. And if you're not familiar with Twitch, let me just run that. I'll run this here. Let me click open a new window, and I'm going to kill the audio here. This is going to launch from our Rockstar Learning platform. So we're going to let this jump up and start playing. And you can tell this is another storyline build. I'm going to say no. Let's go to the beginning. And let's take a look at what this feels like. Let me kill the audio here. So basically, it tells the story of Twitch. The target audience is advertisers. We want them to know, hey, where are your eyes today? Where are the eyes of purchasers today? Young purchasers, if you're looking for this particular type of group. So Twitch shares the stats. If you've ever done anything with Twitch, it's kind of cool. You know, game players, you can play games online and you can record yourself while you're playing the game. And then you can explain stuff as you're moving along. And I'm a gamer, but I definitely don't use Twitch because I'm just not cool enough. But, I'd like to be. So in this case, all right, we're gonna engage the advertiser. We're gonna say that's the target audience, by the way, advertisers who are not used to understanding this new world of marketing in the space where we're not in radio, we're not in print, and we're not in television or even movies, right? So I'm going to be the gamer. I'll just click on that one there. So, all right. Then I'm going to be, experiencing through the eyes of the gamer here. And I'm going to learn, the audio is sort of explaining about, the difference between gaming or media or whatever, and movies and stuff. So we're using a lot of video here to explain the concept, but that's not the level 3 part, because as many of you would tell me, hey, video is passive. So really, we're back to foundational and level 1. But in level 3, we're considering our audience. They're very comfortable with understanding the world of video. So we're explaining, when you're a Twitch creator and you're creating content on Twitch, you're commenting on video games, you're commenting on sports, you're commenting on music, commenting on movies. But you're gaining a following of people who want to hear what your opinion is on that movie, or maybe even how to create a recipe, or you name it. Here's where the level 3 stuff gets fun. I'm going to jump forward here a little bit. So we actually we build all of the interactions, mirror the platform. So we talk about an immersive situation where I've got a theme here. The entire theme is mirroring the actual platform. I do have a little game here as well. So I have to click start game, and I use my arrow keys to move over. Have I ever played a video game? Oh, dang it, I didn't do that wrong. So I'm back on my arrow keys here. We want this audience to experience a light game. Avoid the asteroids, and yes, I have played a video game before. Well, the chat that you see happening over here on the right actually mirrors the live platform. So if I'm chatting with someone, I'm going to get that experience. And by the way, we added a tracker here where I can use, I can earn, as I'm learning, I'm earning. That's something else that mirrors the platform. Some of you who are Twitch users will know that as you're learning, or as you're supporting your Twitch friend or your Twitch persona that you love, you can earn bits, and then you can contribute those bits to the content creators that you love, and they can convert those bits to real money. So as a content curator or somebody who's spending time on the platform, I can be awarded as I'm moving along, and we're mirroring that in this environment. And that is really where this gets really exciting. Oh, let me close this. Oh, let me see if I can jump forward in the menu here. I don't think we locked this one. Oh man, looks like I'm getting a little bit stuck. Low system resources may affect your quality. Stephanie, can you still hear me?
We can still hear you.
Okay. All right, I'm going to have to close this window because I think I got my new Surface Pro here, but I don't know if I messed up on the videos while I'm also on the Zoom. Okay, let me open it again, because I do want to show you one other thing here that's pretty cool. So again, it takes a lot of design up front to do something like this. We have to know at the very beginning. I'm going to kill my video here, keep my audio going just to see if that helps my resources here. So again, Stephanie, tell me if I start to sound like a robot, because I'm dogging a little bit here. Let me jump back up here. I'm going to go to my menu, and hopefully you're still seeing my screen here.
Yeah, okay, we are still seeing your screen.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to kill the video this time, and now I'm going to jump forward if I can. Let me go to my menu. Let's see. We went through what is Twitch, fact or fiction intro. Let's see. That's a little game that we can play as well. Let's see. I think I want to jump into right here, the RU exercise. So we jump forward in the exercise. We see, yeah, I already showed you how we're engaging with the live stream platform. But in this, we actually get into some gaming where we're asking the learner to identify themselves. And again, remember, the target audience is advertisers. So we're asking the advertisers to identify who are you and how do you engage with media today. And, some of the folks here are not so much engaging online, but that's why they're coming to this training. And by the way, Amazon and Twitch are sharing this now with the world. So understanding where they're coming from is important. And we continue to engage them in the stream chat. And then we jump, as they're based on their responses, we jump into the actual platform where we can say, great, now let's based on what you chose, let's see what that might look like in the real Twitch world. So again, I would spend more time there, but I do want to get to level 4. But let me go ahead and close this. And I do want to make the point about a level 3 experience. When we talk about that within the context of, let's say, Bloom's, right? We're moving up the Bloom's taxonomy ladder. When we get to level 3, learners we left passive behind at level 1. We're experimenting, we're examining, we're comparing and contrasting. And and as I mentioned, we're applying. Level 2, level 3, level 4, application. The learning objectives, and I will say this twice, the learning objectives of your course at level 2, 3, and 4 should be accomplished in the asynchronous experience. One more time. The learning objectives that you come up with for the learning, and we should always have learning objectives, should be accomplished in the asynchronous experience. So we don't want any learning objectives that say, hey, you're going to learn this so that you can apply it back on the job. No. You're going to learn something today that you're going to apply today in this training. You're going to, so in the case of Twitch, we do have a learning objective slide. One of the learning objectives is you will experience the platform by making choices that allow you to contribute bits to your favorite content provider or something like that, which is mirroring the actual platform. So that's why I love this course. I could go on and on about this particular one. This one was, let me jump back. This one was an award-winning course recently at DevLearn, which is eLearning. It's the Learning Guild's October conference. And it won Best Solution at the Demo Fest. And some other awards I believe our marketing team is submitting for. So anyway, and the results have been phenomenal. We launched this during the pandemic. And when they were at X amount of dollars of advertising revenue, and then about 2 years, a year and a half post this course, I don't know what the numbers were. Stephanie probably remembers. I think she wrote a case study recently, but the number of dollars that they noticed coming into the advertising revenue like tripled or quadrupled. And we as training providers and instructional designers, we're always trying to get to that level 4, right, of the Kirkpatrick model. Learning levels, level 1, reaction, level 2, behavior change, level 1 is reaction, level 2 is retention. Can people remember stuff? Level 3 is behavior changing, level 4, results. So we're always trying to get to that results level. Okay, I'm going to move forward. Last one, level 4, fully immersive learning simulations. And Jen's on the line today, and she is our director of marketing at the game agency. The game agency created this solution. Again, there were so many to choose from, but Jen, feel free to jump in at any time. This was created, well, actually, let me just launch it here and I'll show you what it was created for. Okay, open link in new window. I believe we're going to do a video here. So this is an SEL experience. So if you're not familiar with this, this is a very common term in the industry that specifically relates to children and how kids are engaging with their world. So the social and emotional learning for primary education. So here's the example here. It's a 5-minute video. I am just going to let it run.
Compassion Project.
Let me kill the
The
audio.
Compassion Project was created
let me
to
come up
provide
here.
teachers with the tools they
I'm going
need
to click
to teach.
mute site. So I'm just going to let this run. Look at what we're seeing here. So we're seeing animation. It's the entire thing is hand illustrated. The whole experience has been constructed from the perspective of a child using imagery. And then you might think, well, why are these kids different colors? Well, as you might imagine, that's done on purpose. So the kids can come in to an experience that feels very safe. Now, throughout the whole experience, now there is some time here where the virtual experience is happening, where the learner is able to actually come into the playground and engage. There are so many scenarios happening here. Let me go full screen on this one. Okay, so there's so many scenarios here in games. Well, as I said, we left passive way behind back at level 1, level 2. I'm sorry, foundational level 1. But when we get into level 4, the whole experience is gamified. So in this case, you're earning points as you're moving along. And as you're making choices, the kids are learning mindfulness and meditation and self-care examples, and they're having to answer questions. And there's a ton of fully immersive video experiences. So in this case, now you see I'm going into Sarita Vision. So now I'm getting a sort of a VR experience where I've got to make choices here, where there's a virtual reality kind of experience happening on the screen in front of me. Doesn't necessarily have to be in a headset, but it could be. In this case, we asked them, let's don't use headsets. This was a few years ago, this was created. But I mean, the experience, as you can tell, is, every screen is customized. As I mentioned, these are more expensive. Obviously, you can see there's graphic artists involved here, illustrators. The game dynamics are consistent throughout. This build is not done in any authoring tool. I believe the build was primarily done in the customized engines that exist at the game agency with some Unity backend. And that's, it's simple, but so very effective. Jen, would you like to add anything about this? I know this was one of the marquee projects at the game agency among many others. I don't know.
I think you hit all the points, Rich.
Okay.
I can say this was funded by the executive chairman, of LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner, and it had full support of the former host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek. And it's definitely one of my favorite games that we've created because it's so engaging. And what's interesting about it is I think you mentioned it's scenarios, so it's got the branching path dialogue element. So children learn from the consequences of their decisions, which is like real life, right?
Right. Awesome. Thank you, Jen. What I loved about this too, from an instructional design standpoint, and again, we could spend a whole hour on just going what went behind this. Everything that's happening is building one upon the next. So I'm learning as I'm going, and the actual activities that I'm now going to experience in this sort of virtual experience in this world, I'm now applying for each individual person their own experience and trying to understand what that feels like from where they're coming from. And we're meeting these kids. I want to say that I forgot the age group for this one, but I do believe it was 2nd grade and up. Maybe it was 3rd grade and up.
Elementary.
Yeah, so elementary age kids who are surprisingly used to, even at the younger levels, probably this doesn't surprise any of us, but they're surprisingly used to getting an experience like this on their tablet. Like I have grandkids who are ages 6 and 8, and I'm astounded what they're learning on their tablets. And I believe this runs flawlessly on a tablet, and a lot of kids are consuming it on tablets. So anyway, I'll stop there and close this one because we could just go on and on and on and have some fun with this one. But the design that goes into something like this. So we talk about instructional designers and experienced designers. I mean, you got to spend a lot of time architecting that up front and then working closely with the game builder, the actual developers, which is what the game agency does. So these types of level 4 experiences. Now, I do want to say this. When we say expensive, we're not talking about millions of dollars. We are talking about probably 6 figures, getting up there towards 6 figures. So, but if you have an initiative in your organization where you're thinking, wow, I'd like to explore something like that. Well, then, let's talk about how we could potentially support you, because this is, these are the types of experiences we have here. exploring, investigating, problem solving, and immersive application. Every choice you make is going to be based on the story that's being told. You are fully in the contextual experience as you're moving through it. I want to just make this point because I think it's a good point. You've heard the old saying, you might forget what people tell you, but you won't forget how somebody makes you feel. That's what we're going for at level 4. We're going for that feeling. I posted something on LinkedIn recently. I'm doing a lot of work with ATD National, which is, as many of you know, the Association for Talent Development. They've got their big conference every year, and we do a lot with the local chapters and whatnot. But I was reading something off of one of their materials recently about this concept around experience design. And as you're doing, when you're thinking LXP, right? There's a learning experience, an LXD, learning experience designer. This experience is about involving empathy in the design. And what is empathy really? It's about really understanding where the learner is coming from and feeling what they're feeling. So in this case, this project like this takes a while, but they're running the prototype through by kids and having them engage and understand it. And that's really where we get to. So at level 4, we're gonna create a learning experience that's unforgettable. That's really what we're after. So I do have a bonus piece here, since we're right here at the end, and we'll take any quick questions if we need to. This comes right from the game agency as well. I found this while I was researching and getting ready for this webinar. There's 5 game types that align with performance objectives. And hopefully, if you want to my deck, I can certainly send it to you. But this little infographic from the game agency is awesome because it sort of goes through what we've been talking about. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as it relates to games. Now, you may not know that the game agency has a full, they call it the training arcade games. There's a full suite of 10 games that are next level types of games that you can fully customize, but they get right to each one of these. And I used these words in my presentation today. So if you're thinking to yourself, I could never do even a level 2. I live in foundational all day, every day. Well, guess what? For a surprisingly affordable rate, you can apply one of these games into your material today and take a foundational or a level 1 into a more level 2 type experience and get lots of kudos and attaboys and pats on the back and elevate the learning experience for your learner. Because these games that we're talking about here, you can see it right on our website or thegameagency.com. Plenty of material on these types of games and how they can elevate what you're doing now. And then remember what I said earlier, and I repeated it twice. Your learning objectives should be accomplished in the asynchronous experience. Well, one of your learning objectives, the game agency has a game called the detective game. It's awesome. You actually build all your own content in there. The dynamics of the game are already built. But you can have one of your learning objectives to be, you will solve a case involving this kind of data, and you'll be 100% accurate in your solution or something like that. But there's lots of different options there. So again, that's a bonus. If you're designing something and you feel like I just can't get up to that level 2, level 3, level 4, well, some games that have been pre-made that you can just drop content into and make that really easy. All right, I'm at the end of this presentation. I want to thank everybody for being so attentive. I do believe a recording comes out afterwards, but Stephanie, is there anything else we should talk about before we close up?
All right, it looks like Jen and I have answered all of the questions. I did share a link in the chat to the case study about that Twitch course that Rich was showing, so you can get a little bit more information about the metrics of the results.
Look at the results on that one. Yeah, it's mind-blowing. It's like the holy grail of training, right? If we can tie what we've done to a bottom line effort, it's just, it helps you sleep at night. So I love that. Thank you, Steph.
Yeah, it was flattering that you thought I would remember the stats off the top of my head.
Well, you wrote it, so you don't
remember
all the stuff you write, so I get it.
And then I also posted a link to the training arcades. You can learn a little bit more about that. Those are the games that Rich was just talking about. And then now I'm going to post a link in the chat to our contact form. As we mentioned, Rich is VP of Learning Solutions, if you want to talk to our custom learning development team, talk about these different levels, maybe find out what would be a good fit for your learning needs, you can reach out to us through that form right there, and someone will get back to you, schedule time, chat about your specific needs. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Rich, for sharing your expertise and these examples. I hope everyone found them inspirational, got some ideas, and also gained a deeper understanding of what you can do with different levels of interactivity. Hopefully, we will see you all on another webinar or next week at ELBX Online, Tuesday and Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.